Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the Professor, and this is the moment of truth. Times are tough right now. We could all use a laugh, so here's a big fat joke for you.
I always tell somebody who's never had customized golf shoes.
God damn, my girl got the bedazzled on.
For those who don't know, it's called Stingray.
Okay, my bad. I'm
It's
sorry.
called Stingray.
Yeah.
Right.
Did you kill it yourself?
You know,
Did you go out in the ocean and kill it and wrestle it?
well, first of all, we got the three fucking amigos back here.
Yeah, we do.
Holy
Oh,
shit.
there we go. Put the sting into that ray.
We got Happy Gilmore.
Those are the Sting Baby
Actually,
Rays
I'm
right
looking
there.
closer. No, those are actually manta ray. No, those are manta ray.
Are you wearing stingrays because you like when dudes pee on your feet?
Yeah.
I'm wearing Stingrays because they were $900 in.
Yeah, no, I see
okay.
You got
it.
ripped off.
Oh, pretty solid there.
Yo, big Sting Baby Ray got it right down
Oh,
the
baby ray.
Y'all can get there in two.
Now, as we all know, Roly-Poly always gets profane when he's talking about the black community. Whenever he gets criticized for polishing masses' boots with his tongue, he curses and hollers and insults and all the rest of it. But whenever he's talking about the white media or white politicians or just white society in general, oh, he's pretty as you please. He knows how to rein that tongue in. He does not talk about these white supremacists the same way that he talks about black people. And this is just one example of that. White people can emasculate him, insult him to his face, humiliate him, and he'll just smile and take it and hang out with them like it ain't no thing. Now, if this is the type of abuse that he willingly takes from white guys on the golf course, which is the whitest place on earth, then what kind of abuse has he willingly taken from the Democrats or from the white media? When he was at CNN, what kind of abuse was he taking then? When he whores himself for the DNC, what kind of abuse is he taking from the Democratic leadership? Or any campaign ad who wants to mock him? See, white supremacy is an abusive relationship, but you have to choose to take the abuse. And by the way, before anyone says that, oh, we shouldn't make this a racial thing, do you truly believe that Anderson Cooper, or that Ari Melber or Rachel Maddow, or name any white media personality on white cable television news that you want, do you think that they would be around a bunch of black people taking abuse like that? Especially coming back for it time and again, you think they would ever let that happen? Do you think that Joe the Schmo Scarborough or any of these white folks you see on cable news would take that? They would not. From our point of view, from the view of the black grassroots, black people who have respect for themselves and dignity and will stand up for themselves against white supremacy, we tell ourselves that bootlicks like Roly make themselves grin and bear it. That's what we tell ourselves. Well, you know that he's just dying inside, and it's a shame that he has to make himself go through this. Now, while that may be the way that you and I think, when it comes to bootlicks like Roly-Poly, that's not true at all. They like the abuse, and they'll gladly lap it up as long as there's some butter biscuits in it for them. They are masochistic. They like being abused because at the very least it's attention from massa. Sure, it's not positive attention. Sure, it's damaging attention, but at least they're getting some attention. What they don't want is to be separated from massa. To them, that's the only true punishment. And speaking of another big fat joke, Simone Mammy Sanders is on deck. Juneteenth is coming up soon, so what does one of the remaining black mouthpieces on white cable news do? She does a piece talking about how there's some laws aimed at the LGBT community. Well, what she's saying certainly sounds serious enough. And since MSNBC is wanting to prioritize this issue, I say the LGBT community needs to band together and vote against the Republicans. Because that will get them out of office, right? Remind me again how many LGBT people there are in the US. No matter what some of the more activist-minded people in the movement try to claim, the LGBT numbers in the US are still in the single digits percentage-wise. When it comes time for elections, it's not the LGBT community who decides who gets into power. It's the black vote who does. And in too many cases, we've seen that the white LGBT community has been every bit the anti-black racist as the white hetero community. So that being the case, the LGBT community needs to do some soul searching. They need to look at themselves. Black voters are who everyone relies on to win office, at least if you want to be a Democrat. But what have the Democrats done to bootstrap and raise up the black community? What have they done to justify our unfailing support? Democrats are in control of the entire Michigan state government. They control the state legislature and the governor's office. So what are they doing to keep black Michiganders in the state? What are they doing to attract more black people there? Because black folks have been the ones who put them in power. So what are they doing to augment their numbers? Nothing. They're not doing anything, either to bring more black people to the state or even to hold on to the ones who are there. Just the same as all of these other Democratic-controlled states and legislatures and cities. Let's talk about California. San Francisco is the LGBT capital of the U.S., and over the last 30 years, we have seen black people completely run out of the city. And now you have a bunch of non-black San Franciscans who are going across the bridge into Oakland because it's less expensive to live there on that side of the Golden Gate Bridge. So they're going to work their gentrification magic in Oakland, and soon they will make Oakland into the exact same vast wasteland that they made their city of San Francisco into. There's a reason why all these big metropolitan areas happen to have large black populations, at least the ones that are culturally vibrant, because we've got the pulse. If all you want to do is live in some small little village somewhere, or if all you want to do is just go to work and go back home, well, then you'll be fine where you are. But if you actually want a city that actually has something resembling vibrancy to it, something resembling culture to it, something resembling a pulse, then there is no substitute for the black community, though everyone has tried. California is not a red state, allegedly, and San Francisco certainly is not a red city, allegedly. But what did the heavily LGBT San Francisco do in regards to black residents being driven out of the city? What have they done to make sure that black people are not merely welcome there, but they do everything that they can so that black people are able to thrive there? Well, what they've done is they've helped to price black people out of town and drive black people out of the city. Just because someone is not a straight white male doesn't mean that they're not on team white supremacy. This is a reality that the white media has tried to brainwash you into thinking, and too many black people have hidden their heads in the sand and telling themselves that one day we're going to have some allies if we just wish hard enough. When it comes to pushing back against the Republicans, the only game in town is the black vote. Whenever people talk about so-called battleground states, that's a lie. There are no battleground states. There's only battleground cities. And those cities are who has the most to do with determining who wins these nationwide elections and many of the statewide elections. As black people, we need to make it clear to everyone we are who decides who wins in these battleground states. Whenever they talk about Michigan as a battleground state, that's a lie. They're actually talking about the collective black populations of Detroit, Flint, and to a lesser degree, Lansing. When they talk about Pennsylvania as a battleground state, that's another lie. The racist Cajun Skeletor James Carville was right when he said Pennsylvania is Pittsburgh in the west, Philadelphia in the east, with Alabama in between. And he was right, but who is the majority population in Philadelphia? Black people are. And black residents make up about a quarter of Pittsburgh's population. They also claim that Georgia is a battleground state, but that's just another lie. Atlanta is the battleground. Democrats are not competitive anywhere else in the state. That's why Republicans are so desperate to attack black voters in Atlanta. That's why the Republicans have been waging an all-out war on Fulton County. You had a lot of these other black groups who were telling fairy tales about how they somehow gave Georgia its 2 Democratic senators. Andrew Yang was lying and saying it was the Asian population. Latino activists were lying and saying it was Latinos. You had white feminists lying and saying it was white suburban women. All you got to do is just glance at Georgia's demographics, specifically the places that actually turned out the vote for Democrats, and you see it was the black population who did it. Now, these other folks who are trying to claim it was them, these are people who look for a camera that they can stand in front of, and whenever something is trending, they claim that somehow they're the reason for it. They find the biggest parade that they can and then jump out front and pretend to be the band major. But the Republicans have made it crystal clear they know exactly who handed the Democrats their victory on a silver platter, and it wasn't the Asians or the Hispanics or white suburban women. It was the group who it's always been, the black community and the black community alone. We are who decides the winners and losers in these battleground states. That's why the Republicans are targeting Atlanta with all these laws. They're not targeting Asians or Hispanics or white suburban women, because they know that these are no threats to them. And what have the Democrats given black people in return for our making it possible for them to hold office? Nothing. Exactly what happened 3 years ago when we had all the hype and talk about how democracy hung in the balance in 2020. Black voters gave Democrats a clean sweep, gave them control of the House, the Senate, and the White House. So while geriatric nobodies like Nigga Jim Clyburn were lying through their buck teeth and saying, "Stop sloganizing and stop talking about punishing the police," what he was really doing was reflecting the talking points and the attitude of the white-moneyed interest who actually fund his asinine office holding. The truth of the matter is that it was that sloganizing, as he called it, that kept Democrats from losing those Senate seats. That's why they were holding office, because all of that sloganizing is what turned out the vote. Because we saw what happened just last year when Democrats decided we're not going to do any sloganizing. What we're going to do instead is we're going to run against Trump. And they lost the House of Representatives. Truth be told, they should have been able to hold on to it. Now, Democrats are doing their part to maintain the political stability of white supremacy. That's their job. Controlled opposition. No matter what they tell you, they're not running against the Republicans. They're running for the job of maintaining white supremacy. No matter their rhetoric, when you look at what they actually do when they're in power, you see that there's no difference. Republicans make it a point to funnel all government money and resources into white areas, and Democrats also do the same when they're in power. Republicans make it a point to deny funds and services to black areas, and Democrats make it a point to never appoint the money or the services to black areas in the first place. So with the two major parties, we see an organized offense against us. This is how you dial a group of people in to be oppressed for the long haul. The biggest political con that white power pulled on the black population was to manufacture the lie that their political system, as it currently operates, can be influenced by us merely by voting for the right people. But of course, the right people are the ones that they put in front of us. There's no need for us to get turned up or cause any kind of trouble because all of our problems can be addressed if we just get enough of the right people's party in there. This is why I keep telling you that so long as people are voting, they're not in revolt. Now, for the slow coasts out there, if you see someone at the local level on the ballot who actually wants to do right and has pledged to do right by you, then you can get behind them. But if you see these white newspapers and white TV stations, the white media endorsing somebody and bringing them on or talking about them, but they're not attacking them, that's how you know that you're looking at a bona fide agent that is controlled opposition. White power makes it clear who they like and who they don't, and they're very blatant about it. Black person who they don't like, they're going to bring them on, be attacking them, all sorts of disparaging comments. Make sure to bring on some other people who are critical of them. It's to make it crystal clear to the audience, this is one of those bad Negroes. You don't want them in power. We need to make sure that they are firmly slotted in the problematic category. The white media are not your friends. They are the mouthpiece for established white power, and the Democrats are part of the administrative arm of white power. We will have to break the bastards. This system wasn't designed to produce justice. It was designed to produce the illusion that it can potentially be influenced by the people, but in reality, the legislature means nothing because rich white money decides who gets on the ballot, and the laws mean nothing because they were written by rich white money. The system was designed to create the guaranteed outcomes that they want. But because we keep being told that voting is the only thing we need to do to change things, as a result, people will waste all their time trying to get these very political whores to do their jobs. We will have to make this sick racist system do the very thing it was not designed to do: produce justice, to be responsive to the needs and interests of the people who built this country. We have to get comfortable with being political disruptors, putting the enemy on the spot, making it clear that we will only vote for policies specifically benefiting us. And there's a part that all of us can play in this process of putting pressure on the enemy. See, they're not just advocating that the LGBT community not be targeted by laws. They're also putting tangible and actively enforced laws in place on their behalf. For black people, however, we get neither tangibles nor laws. What we get are lectures and insults. They want us to give them political office and all the millions of dollars in wealth that goes along with it, and in return, we get nothing. And then they tell us come back in 2 years and do it all over again because we owe it to them. Any so-called black leader who does not say what you hear the black media saying is a bootlick. They're an agent. And I love it when I got people in the comments section who don't like hearing that. That's because we're talking about you. These are traitors who are just playing the game. And any black person who you see on TV as a pundit or a so-called expert, they're nothing more than paid opposition working for the enemy unless they're saying what we say. The people who we are told to vote for and the people telling us to vote for them both work for the exact same master. And if you want to pretend that they're just misguided somehow, or they simply don't understand the damage they're doing, well, when Roly-Poly is through losing 9 holes on the golf course, I'm sure these same white interests will be glad to have you putting next. They can always use a new punching bag. Good day, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors. T. Odom, Jacques Hargett, Quincy X, Othniel Malcolm, and Timothy Hall. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.